So with that down and out of the way, let's move on to episode 5 of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. It dropped on Friday, and I'm not going to spoil anything here. We're going to do a non-spoiler review of this show. Episode 3 and 4, I won't talk about them in spoilers either. I ain't going to ruin anything of this series. But episode 3 and 4 was definitely much more on the action-packed side of things. Episode 5, with the exception of the beginning of the episode that directly bled into episode 5 after the big finale of episode 4, we had to have a little bit of an action sequence to start episode 5. But after that, it's really, really, really slowed down, but in a good way. A lot of character development in this episode, especially on the side of Sam Wilson and John Walker, and where they're going individually, moving forward here and setting up the finale in episode 6 next week. So don't miss that. That will be the grand finale of The Falcon and Winter Soldier season 1, at least, until we maybe get more. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, this is definitely setting up the end of the season. And again, it's no secret, this isn't a spoiler, that this show is setting up Sam Wilson taking over the mantle of Captain America. Whether or not he, it looks like, from what all things considered, it looks like that is the direction they're going to go. And I love the way they're doing it, because he had doubts and all this sort of stuff. But, in the end of the one thing I did like about episode 5, they really went into the fact of what it would be like for a black man to take over the mantle of Captain America. And they made heavy references to the fact that, some people will never accept that. And that is a very, deep, almost political aspect of the show, but it also brings a good point. So it's very well done, and the MCU has always been good about telling their stories with such great detail, and then also planning ahead. So there are certain things in this episode too where they're setting up things for the future, and especially one character in particular that is in the comics that they kind of set up going forward a little bit, and I'll get into that in my spoiler review on the channel, so definitely stay tuned for that. There's also a post-credit scene for episode 5, so definitely stick around for that. If you did not see that, it sets up the finale as well, and another character from the comics, which I'm looking at an image of him right now on the internet, and it's actually incredible if they go through with this design. And the character, I don't know where he goes in the comics, but it is actually really cool to see. And I just like the idea that the MCU is starting over after Avengers Endgame. They had to start from scratch, so to speak. I mean, they lost Robert Downey Jr., they lost Chris Evans, they lost Scarlett Johansson. Or at least, after her film, we may not see her again. I don't know how they're going to play that. But they have to kind of start all over when it comes to building up their character roster again from scratch, because they don't have Iron Man, no Cap, no Black Widow, and some of the other characters are off or done, or we don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I think Hawkeye is going to be passing the mantle. The Hulk, he may be passing the mantle. I don't know about Thor. Thor is getting another movie, so I have a little more hopes that he's going to stick around. And of course, the Guardians are still around and things like that. But the core Avengers, they're kind of done. Now, I do believe that we are going to probably get another Avengers film, but it's going to take a few years for the MCU to build up their roster again, just like they did from the beginning of Phase 1 in 2008. And I believe, and I have faith that they will do that again. And they will have us all invested in these new characters before that time comes, and it's going to pay off just fine. We just have to give them time and be patient and not expect, what we already love to happen again, because there is a certain point in movies, and this kind of goes back to the Fast and Furious thing a little bit, where sometimes you can go too long. I enjoy those films, but there are a lot of people who feel like Fast and Furious should have ended about 3 movies ago. So in the case of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Avengers, maybe that iteration of the characters of the Avengers team should be over. And maybe we should move on before they last too long. Even Robert Downey Jr. has talked about that in interviews. He's talked about you got to find a nice place to move aside and step aside and move on before you stay too long and overstay your welcome, and audiences get tired of it. So in that case, the MCU may be making the right move here. And building up new characters is the way to continue the Marvel brand, but not get it stale. And the one good thing that they do is all their movies are different types. You've got your comedies, your action, your spy thrillers, your mystic art stuff. You've got different things that, and they can come together, but at the same time, they have their own unique styles. And I think the new Doctor Strange movie is going to delve a little bit more into the horror aspect of things too. So they're doing things, now they're branching into TV, so they're doing different styles of things, and by doing so, they keep the product fresh. And that's one thing that Marvel is doing better than a lot of other franchises right now, and a lot of franchises hopefully will learn from this. DC in particular, I think, could definitely take a lot of lessons from what Marvel's doing, and I think they're trying. And I think, again, DC, I always preach patience with DC too, because I think they've got a lot of good things upcoming, but we'll see what they do too. But episode 5 was a great episode. Definitely more slow on the character side of things and building up things more, in a more quiet pace, more slow pace. But that doesn't always mean bad things. It doesn't always have to be super fast paced to keep our attention. And Marvel knows how to tell a good story, and all these things are going to pay off most likely in this next week's finale. So definitely check that out Friday, April 23rd on Disney+. Hey everybody, I hope you liked this video. Did you like what you saw here? If you did, I hope you will comment below. Let me know what you thought of whatever I discussed here today. Also, hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell on the channel as well, so you get all the notifications about when I put up new content. Also, you can find me, Eric Hopkins, at EricJel on Twitter. It's at ERICJEL, Gel with the J. Also, you can find me on the 3-Star Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at 3-Star Pod, and on Twitter at 3-Star Podcast 1. We discuss all sorts of things over there, from all sorts of topics like pro wrestling, video games, movies, sports, just whatever we feel like talking about. We always try to have a good time. Me and a group of guys over there, we enjoy doing our shows weekly, and usually we'll talk about just whatever comes to our head. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, take care.